Hello, my name is Ann LaFemina. I am an educational consultant with JRA Educational Consulting, and today's webinar focuses on strategic course selection, the game changer in college admissions. So let's find out why. So, why does course selection matter so much? Many of you right now might be tasked with choosing your courses and classes for next year. And those of you coming into high school, obviously, will have to do that as well. So, it's important to think about that the classes you take and that you select not only reflect your academic strengths, but tell a story about who you are, your passions, your intellectual curiosity, things you're ambitious about, and most importantly, your readiness for college level work. Now, I'm going to start off with some data from the National Association of College Admissions Counselors, where they surveyed admissions officers to find out what are some of the most important things that you consider when you're evaluating students in the admissions process. And if you can see right here, highly considered the strength of the high school curriculum. And that's just really right behind the grades and the courses that you take at high school or in your high school. So all of this is super important for admissions. Now, if we think about this in even another context, the test optional arena, the courses that you select and the transcript that you present becomes a little bit more of that heavily weighed document since you're not sending in your transcripts. So your transcript can then mean or become that strong predictor of your college success. So whenever you're submitting to a college your application without a test, that meaning the SAT or ACT, this means that the coursework or what you're showing on your transcript is going to weigh even heavier than it would if maybe you had your test scores. Another reason, compelling reason for thinking clearly and making strong choices about the courses that you take is that you will have options to choose electives as you go through your high school program. And exploring your academic interests and your career aspirations can be a great way to align elective courses with your program in high school and developing a focused approach through your academic journey. Another consideration, too, to keep in mind is that in selecting electives, you might find that circling back to core classes such as math and English and science, foreign language, all of those can benefit you even more specifically depending upon a type of program or career that you're wanting to pursue. But I think it's also important to learn about how courses and classes that you take can be a great way to integrate or help you to select those extracurricular experiences and working the two together through your academic pursuits. Strategic course selection can then also be about presenting that strong, cohesive story that aligns with your aspirations. So, whether you want to be a doctor or a dentist or something in the health profession, or maybe you want to be an artist or you want to be an engineer. So, selecting the classes that align with those career pursuits can be greatly significant. Now, taking classes and courses and getting teacher recommendations from those specific and highly specialized courses can be a game changer in college admissions. It's not uncommon for colleges to either optionally so or even require a letter of recommendation. And sometimes a college may even ask you to very specifically ask for a teacher recommendation on a particular subject matter. I also find that teacher recommendations can be invaluable if for some reason you had maybe a rough start in your first semester or first quarter, and a new term comes along and suddenly you're doing a lot better. So a teacher letter of recommendation in a class where you're getting stronger and better as the year progresses can be very helpful. All right, so hopefully you're seeing a little bit of some examples of how course selection and why course selection is, a big game changer. But let's talk about how you can leverage your coursework for admissions. All right, so this to me is one of the most important and impactful. Hopefully you'll see it this way too pieces of this webinar information that I'm sharing. It is so super important for you, and I even suggest that you do this as a ninth grader, incoming freshman, or starting very early in your high school career to conduct a thorough research on the academic expectations of the colleges that you want to align yourself. Now, I understand that as a freshman in high school, you may not even have some kind of that information, or you don't even know what colleges. But I think it's a great experience and opportunity for you to even try to gain insights into the specific course requirements, to research specific institutions and learn what it is that they are expecting from you so that you don't miss an opportunity in admissions. Let's look more into that. So here are some ways you can learn that information, right? So I'm strongly suggesting that starting out in high school, you start looking for information. How do you do that? So one of the first things that I like to do is always look for the common data set. Now, every college will always show you a common data set from the year before admissions profile. So simplistically, so all you have to do is Google common data set for the college that you want to search, and then it will generate all the data that they have gathered from that admission cycle. So I looked most, just at the academic. That's what I'm using just for today, but you can get a ton of information out of doing the common data set. So let's look over at University of Florida. And what do I find? Rigor of secondary record and academic GPA, way up there in their evaluation, most important. Same thing, I'm finding that at UGA. Now, you may not find this the same at each, but for examples in today's webinar, I think this is super important to highlight. Rigor of secondary record, very important. Academic GPA, very important. Another sort of great tool is to see if the college has put out any sort of beyond the data profiles in charts or other tools to help you get a sense of what admissions is looking for in courses to be admitted, right? So I love this Florida State University, rather, their early action release information for the 24-25 admission cycle. This was just for their in-state Florida residents at the time. But look what they share with you. And this is really important to kind of get a sense of the minimum English of probably, and this is always right an average. So you're going to see, some students with less and some students with more English courses, a half a credit more. Or even look at this more significantly, math. 2 classes even beyond the advanced maybe requirement of just making it to Algebra 2. And look, a lot of their admitted students also took more than 3 years of a science or more than 3 years of a social science. So this is something that you can be thinking about when you're planning your courses. If I want to get into Florida State, it was going to be to my advantage to take electives that are core classes or to show strength going beyond the requirements of my high school graduation requirements or mandatory curriculum. And I like this over to the right too, where you see 63% of their admitted class, the admitted students in that first round early action had, advanced math classes, more than 50%. So I think that's something to really keep in mind when you're trying to map out those courses. Now, what I want to do is just sort of take you through some of the actual websites so that you learn how to find information for majors that you're applying to. And I kind of call it the sneaky information within a college website. Sometimes these are not always so easy to find. But I always go and take some time to look through the admissions website so I really understand that if there's something that I need, that I have, particularly mapping this out in my role as a college consultant for students when we make plans and make course selections for the next year of their high school career. Now, in Penn State admissions, there you clearly see that they're sharing that some of the college and majors require the completion of additional math in high school in order to be eligible for admissions. And if we take a little bit of a deeper dive into this, you can see for several colleges, College of Engineering, College of Science, business programs, College of Business, they are requiring that you at least have beyond Algebra 2 and geometry, a half a unit of trigonometry, pre-calc, or calculus. So these are what I call the little hidden things that you want to be aware of so that if you want to be admitted to any of these programs, you have these courses ready to go, or you're on the projected path in high school for these courses. Now, another example here is the University of Vermont. And if you've noticed, I've circled two key things. One is recommended. So whenever I see the word recommended, that tells me that I probably should be on that path because that will increase my chances of getting admitted. And what they're saying is that for their College of Arts and Sciences, they do want to see that 4 years of math, but also they're very much valuing 4 years of foreign language. So do they admit students beyond or with less than 4 years? Yes, I'm sure they do. But when you see these recommended or suggestions, it's best you heed their advice. And then again, right down here in that Rubenstein School of Environment and Natural Resources, you see that they are asking you to have at least 1 year of biology and chemistry, which I would have to say that more than likely every student graduating from high school would have that. But then they also suggest physics or AP environmental science. And then that 1 year of college prep of math beyond Algebra 2. So if you found that you wanted to apply to this school and you didn't have all those requirements on your high school transcript, that would mean you would definitely not be admittable to that program. And then just to further my conversation on this and just showing you these examples over and over again, I'm pointing to the University of Rhode Island, where they are strongly saying that if you want to study business or chemistry, computer science, and physics, they do recommend that you complete 4 units of math, including that pre-calc and trig. I cannot tell you how much pre-calc, calc, and trig are coming up on the radar of courses that you should probably be on the path to. So this is super important to see that you're aligned if this is something that you want to study in your post-secondary education. Something I'm very excited about when I found this on the Yale website from last year is that instead of necessarily telling you about classes, they gave you some course direction. And I loved it because it's really great advice. Let me just move this down here. First question, am I taking a well-balanced academic program that will provide me a good foundation for college? Well, this is a great question because a lot of times I work with seniors and maybe they have mastered or have all the credits that they need and taken all of the classes and courses requirements for graduation, and they want to take a break on something, take a break on math, take a break on writing. And that's never a good idea. I always think it's good to keep going on all of that because it keeps you academically prepared, getting ready for those college level courses. And so I think that's a great question on Yale's part because I asked that same question too. All right. So, do you feel challenged by the courses that you're taking, right? So, here's the thing. We don't want you to be challenged or overly taking overly rigorous courses, but we do want to make sure that if you have strengths and you can be challenged a little bit more, you should be taking those rigorous courses or be willing to accept or add more challenge in your high school program for your strengths. And I am going to talk a little bit about towards the end of this presentation about balance and how important it is. But colleges will look at the strength of your program compared to what your high school offers. And so to that point, you'll see later on when I share a high school profile, having a few honors or AP or advanced classes can really work to your advantage. All right, now when we get to the University of California system or the California state schools, you want to make sure you are completely aligned because they have a 15 requirement, 11 of them of which you have to, 15 course requirement, let me clarify that, of what they call A through G. And you can see A history, B English, so that's what they mean, A through G. 11 of them by the junior year. And if you don't have them or you're not in sync or ready with those courses, that could mean that you may not see an admissions decision in the UC system. Now, I do want to clarify, and I put a little arrow on this visual and performing arts. I have had students who have taken speech as a visual and performing arts class, for example, and only to find out that speech is not considered, although it is considered for a performing arts or visual performing arts class for high school graduation in some high school arenas, but not for the UC. So be very careful that when you're making those course selections, that you're circling back to those course catalogs and knowing exactly what they mean, because mathematics cannot just be so broadly so mathematics, or visual and performing arts may not be so broadly so. What works for your high school may not be what they are looking for in their assessment of those core A through G classes. All right, and so when in doubt, when you're not looking through all of these tools that I've just shared with you, my very, sort of practical and very doable question that I always set my students out with when they're visiting colleges, when admissions representatives are coming on the campus to your high school, when you're attending a college fair, all of these. Best case question is to say, what do I need to graduate? But not only that, what do I need to get admitted to this type of school? And I'm even going to further that I don't have on this slide, for this particular major, as you could see in those examples that I shared in previous slides. Or what do, students at this school typically arrive with in their coursework? So I think that's always a default question to go back to for course selection. All righty, so now let's move out, or let's rather move this out, but let's map out the plan moving forward. And how do you do that? Okay, so Developing that comprehensive plan is what I've been talking about from the whole start of this webinar, but I haven't gotten to how do you do that. And so my very first piece of advice would be to seek that mentorship from your guidance counselor or a college consultant or someone, an advisor who can help you, or going back and circling to the college itself and hearing it from their admissions officer or from their department heads so that you can make those informed decisions about course selection and be prepared. Now, what do I mean? Because I think this was important to sort of start here so you really understand where I'm going and the how to. So typically, if I see a student who is thinking about pre-med or healthcare, engineering or tech, or arts and humanities, these would be the courses that I would see or recommend that they would be aligning themselves with. All right, so and I'm not going to go through every one of them, but I'm going to pick two. So I'll start with the pre-med healthcare because that's very popular. Typically, those students are on track with biology, chemistry, all kinds of advanced science courses, psychology, anatomy, and physiology. And I'll ask a student, if you're thinking of studying that, I don't see that in your transcript. So you really want to make sure that you have those. And then, of course, absolutely, those strong math foundation course will be an absolute must. Remember, and higher than Algebra 2, pre-calc, calc, and so on. Very impactful for those of you who want to go on to healthcare or pre-med professions, studying that in college. Let's kind of go over to the arts and humanities side. So when I know that somebody wants to major within that area, typical classes are going to be maybe advanced coursework in English literature, journalism, creative writing, or advanced coursework in art, music, or theater, depending upon what you want to study. And certainly anything language or cultural studies, philosophy, sociology. So this is what I'm talking about in that strategic mapping it out, telling that story and aligning yourself with that major for what you want to study. Now, here is one of my favorite pieces of advice, and I definitely think you should work with your counselor or college advisor on mapping out a 4-year plan. I really like to start that in the freshman year. But wherever you are, you should definitely think about that. And if you don't have access to a college advisor or counselor or someone who can work through this with you, my best advice is to find your course catalog. And then you're going to look at the course catalog. That is the course selection or all the courses and classes that your high school offers. And then sit down and map out a strategic plan. Now, you can always deviate from the plan as your interests and passions and pursuits change. You can certainly go back and look to how you can progress and make changes within this plan. But I can't tell you how important it is to start with the plan. And also, the importance of your high school's course catalog should be that it should tell you the prerequisites. So, in other words, if you want to go on to advanced classes, again, advanced meaning honors, AP, IB, ACE programs, dual enrollment programs with college, with articulations with colleges. Then you need to know what classes you should be in from the start so that there's no issues with you taking those advanced classes as you go through. So again, talk about a game changer. The 4-year plan is one of my top strategic tips of the webinar. Okay, now again, this is that circling back to that 4-year plan, the course selection, and then looking at that catalog and making sure that you're going to be ready for any, not only courses to gain admissions into those college programs, but to have it at the next level, those advanced courses. So this is absolutely instrumental. And I did want to just take a pause because here I am name dropping ACE, which you see mostly in our Florida colleges, IB, what is that? Or AP, advanced, or dual enrollment. Those are also going to be those strongly weighted courses that not only are going to show that rigor in terms of you're going beyond a standard college preparatory class or regular course, but these are all advanced and give weight to the final grade that you have. So if you're also looking to do those course alignment, but adding a little bit more power, then you definitely want to be thinking about how you can start with getting yourselves in these courses. And I don't have honors on here, but absolutely honors would be certainly a right start. And it's important to note too that you don't have to have a full every class to be in that elevated course rigor, but having a few within your strengths or aligned with what you want to study can be really impactful. All right. Another resource that you can look to would be your high school profile. When I work with students and families, oftentimes they have no idea that their high school puts together a profile. And they have to do this because when you're applying to college, behind the scenes, when you're submitting an application through the Common App, let's say, your high school counselor is submitting the high school profile. And how is this impactful and important to admissions officers? Well, it is because this gives them a true understanding of the you within the high school that you're attending. Because let's think about it this way. A student at one high school may have lots and lots of variation of coursework to select from, and a student in another high school may not have that. And your grading scale and how you are calculated within maybe your ranking or percentile is completely different from one high school to the next. And a college has to, they're tasked with evening out that playing field and finding, how does student X from this school environment, how do we compare them to student X from this school environment? And so the school profile gives them a lot of context, again, of the you in what you have in your high school programming and profile. So get that course catalog, sit down, map out those classes, look at your high school profile, and get that information and making those decisions. All right, so now I think you do have hopefully some strong background in that course selection. And let's kind of look at how we can kind of tie it all together. What is the timeline for all this? And I think you hopefully have a little bit of an understanding because I've been circling back to starting when, as early as coming into ninth grade and kind of looking at the future down the line. But when you don't do that, sort of circling back, this is what happens. So remember, I told you a little bit earlier that sometimes when seniors get to that end of their, having to pick for that senior year and they're thinking, I'm done, I don't need to. Well, you know what? Dropping a course or not going on to that next level or taking a gap in a year or something can be a red flag, and can sort of signal to an admissions officer that maybe you're just, kind of lacking or not having the drive that you did. So the colleges really embrace the uptick and that strong rigor. And I always say to seniors, don't stop in your senior year. Remember, because you're getting yourself ready for the next level, which is the college level. And sometimes students go back and they find, oh my goodness, I've misaligned my coursework to what I want to study now. And how do I get caught up with that? Or, oh, I didn't take enough electives or strong courses that are related to STEM or math or certain, programs that I need. So all of this can be, right, avoided if you start early. Circle back, start early. Now, oftentimes seniors come to me and they're very surprised about this, is that a college will often offer you, not all, but some will offer you an interview, and that can take shape in the form of an alumni who lives in your area, or it could be through admissions. And that's another way for them to get to know you. And one of the most common questions that are asked in an alumni interview is, what is your favorite class? Why was that your favorite course? And why did you select that class? And tell me all about what you've learned and your journey in that class. And so making sure that you're very strategic, not saying, oh, I just took this class, I thought it would look good, right, can be actually a part of what an admissions officer or an interviewer can be collecting on you and writing about you in that decision or in that letter, and ultimately leading to your decision. So I think that learning to articulate your academic journey, whether you're going to be asked to interview or not, and why you've made the selection that you did, is equally important as making those decisions and then getting into those classes and earning the good grades. I think it's really important too to know that the courses and classes that you take can help you with scholarships, or that there can be some financial implications, and that's to a very supportive, or financial implications, meaning successful implications, scholarships. And so let's take a look at what I mean by that. Well, if you're in the state of Florida, we have the Bright Futures. It's not uncommon for other states to offer some sort of scholarship alignment based on your academic success. And so therefore, making sure that you have these 16 high school course credits to gain either that highest level scholarship or even secondary level scholarship, which is super significant. And that's about the courses that you take. And something that I suggest to students is going beyond. Remember, if you think about that Florida slide that I shared earlier on, if you have a fourth science or a fourth social science, and you've done a little bit better in those fourth classes, you can substitute that or add that, and that can ultimately help in the recalculation of that GPA. So classes that you take, calculating your GPA for those classes and for scholarships, have great opportunities that could lead to further, scholarships and colleges offering you and rewarding you with tuition discounts. And who does not want that? Okay, so as we start to sort of come to the wind down, I've talked a lot about balancing rigor and getting that GPA, right? I did sort of give a little bit into that. It is important that balance be the overriding conversation with yourself when you're navigating through all of this. And, I talked about GPA. By the way, Score Academy, Score at the Top rather. We have all of our webinars live. I did a webinar in the fall of this year on GPA and how colleges look at your GPA and extract your core classes and recalculate your GPA. And so, because we've been talking about course selection and courses and rigor and GPA, this is a great time for you to um, go to Score at the Top GPA checkup and sign up to meet with one of our counselors here who can look at your transcript and give you the most up-to-date information on the recalculation of your GPA and your course selection, so that you can have that. So I wanted to throw that in there for everybody who is starting to now hopefully think about all these important factors that we do offer that. So definitely check it out. Now, I I had to mention this because it is so super important, right? If you're going to be taking strong classes and you're going to want to have good grades in those classes, your study skills and how you go about your time management, right? High schoolers are doing all kinds of amazing things right now. You are also busy working, athletics, extracurriculars, volunteer projects, maybe home responsibilities. I've certainly talked to students who are very busy all the time. So making sure that you take the time to prioritize your courses that you're taking and aiming for those strong grades, having those specific study goals can really be a game changer in maintaining your focus and your productivity. And I think, right, remember, as it also particularly relates to getting those letters of recommendations, but, you know, taking those strong notes. I always tell my students, if you're not sure, take your notes to your teacher after class and ask them, did I get all the right notes for today's lesson? Did these look like the right notes for the tests coming up? Is there anything that I'm missing? Anything you think I need to circle back with? Asking questions, asking for advice on how to effectively memorize whatever you need to, and most importantly, retain that information for tests and other tools that are used to measure your learning in your coursework. And there are certainly lots of ways you can do that. Taking effective notes, Cornell notes, anything that you can do to help with the strategies. Listen, even, not, we don't want you to, take notes from your friends, but collaborating, if you can do things in a group study, talking things out, recording, all effective tools in those taking those strong classes and maintaining good grades. Finding a good work study space is always important, great for concentration. And when I work with students and I know they're taking a lot of rigorous classes and they're super busy, I'm always reminding them of self-care, healthy balances, making sure you're getting enough sleep. I know sometimes you're up until very late at night. Exercise, relaxation, finding a little time for yourself is super important. Okay, and before I'm about to finally wrap up my presentation here, I'm so excited to share that Score Academy has an online summer school. And why is this so important for me to share with you? Well, so it's not uncommon for sometimes a student to not do well in a class. And so if you want to have the opportunity to revisit a class and take it again, do it virtually over the summer, this is a great opportunity for you to take a summer school course through Score Academy. We offer over 107 classes. I mean, you're going to find it here. the ability to do it or start in summer session A in June or summer session B in late June. Oftentimes, too, I will work with students if they've had that gap to take an online class so that they're prepared and have that prerequisite to take the class back at their high school, or to show those additional coursework that you don't have at your high school, to show colleges that even if you don't have it, you're still seeking that knowledge or you're preparing yourself. So this could be a great opportunity. I cannot stress enough how excited we are to be offering this. And so hopefully you will see that too. And again, at JRA, we offer webinars on all kinds of topics. And today I stressed course rigor, course alignment, study skills. But we talk about, told you we talked about GPA. Coming up, I'm going to be offering a webinar on the arts with my colleagues, Donna Barron and Ellen Valadares, on both the visual and performing arts. So if you don't have the time to tune in, please go to our SCORE webinars where you can find lots of information on the college process. Well, I just can't thank you enough. If I do want to actually circle back, if you do have any questions, again, my name is Ann LaFemina. That's Ann LaFemina, Ann, ANN, at jraec.com. If you want to email me anything that I didn't cover or you want to talk further about, I always welcome follow-up questions from webinars. And again, I just want to thank everyone for listening. And best of luck, high school students, on your course selection. Thank you.